But I love sometimes I think of minimalism, and maybe, I don't know if other listeners feel like this too, but I feel like even the word like just demands a lot from me. Like I'm going to get rid of all of the things and I'm going to be left with this minimal thing. But I love what you just described as like kind of this permission to do it in this incremental way where we're saying to ourselves, yes, I value more freedom, less clutter, more time in my life, less time taking care of like objects in care and keeping of stuff. But also like we have permission, like from what you were saying, to just do it in an incremental way that feels good for us. And I think that's nice. Like, because sometimes I feel like, oh, I should just get rid of all of these things, but no, I could do it in an incremental way. Diane.
I think it also, no, you're right. It definitely, and you guys don't need my permission. You can totally do it. You're strong enough to do it. But I also think sometimes for me, if I'm getting really sentimental and it's something I rationally understand I can get rid of, I will just rip that Band-Aid and get rid of it. And it's funny because you heard it here first. I think we're moving. I just got a message that our contract was accepted. So dropping that bomb here on the
congrats / I'm sorry. That's a lot of work.
Yeah. We don't have a lot of stuff, but I'm just okay, the stuff that remains in our basement outside of a few holiday decorations, I'm like, can someone just throw it all away? Because we haven't used it. We still have all this stuff that we haven't used and we've lived here for 5 years. And it's things like that. I'm like, if someone else just helped me do it, honestly, out of sight, out of mind, you don't even know some of the things that you have sometimes that you're holding on to. But then it's like when you try and take something away from your kids and they don't think about that stuffed animal and they see it in the decluttering bin and they're like, I love that. That's my favorite. And so then you do have this irrational attachment to things. And we know that, we can identify that, but it doesn't mean it's easy. And so I think sometimes doing it with a friend, doing it quickly, or just really being hyper intentional, bringing it to your prefrontal cortex of your brain where you know logically this doesn't make sense. So I'm just going to get rid of it.
Okay. All right, cool. Let me be like devil's advocate for a minute. Okay. But what about kids? Don't they need lots of toys?
I know that when my kids have had more toys, they play for far less focused time. So I know that focused attention, studies say that kids will play for a longer time when they have fewer items than when they have the decision fatigue of many items. And I think about that in correlation to my closet. So when I have had a big selection of wardrobe of items to choose from, it is much harder for me to get dressed than now that I've pared it down to everything that I know looks good on me and that I really love. And that is hard to do as an adult too, because we have attachments to different clothing items. But for kids, it's the same thing. When there's too many things to play with, they go from thing to thing. I don't know what I want to play with. But when we narrow it down or give them options, I'm really into toy rotating. So I have some boxes in my kids' closets of different types of toys, and I'll rotate them down every so often when they seem to be getting bored of those toys. And then when I notice they're not really playing with them anymore, it's kind of time to get rid of it. But also in regards to toys, we live in currently 1,200 square feet. And I would say that we utilize our backyard most often, or we're out in nature. And that just lends to my kids' creativity. And I just don't think you need as much stuff as people are trying to make you feel like you do. And I also like to look to other countries and see the way that people are living or have lived. And again, I think it's just the society we currently live in that we think it's a need, but it's actually just a want.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Like when my kids were little and I've simplified their toys and I've put things away and what I like to call toy purgatory, and like really gotten rid of, like literally, dear listener, I got rid of 75% of my daughter's toys at one point. She came home, she was 2. She came home and she was so happy. She was thrilled. She played for hours in this totally tidy, lovely space. It was amazing. And now that child is 16 and she doesn't want a bunch of clutter around the house. She's not a hoarder. It's pretty interesting. Although I did the same thing with my other child and she is more of a drawer stuffer. So I'm sure there's a lot of room for individuality there. But still, they always loved it when I decluttered. Always. I agree with that.
Yeah, my daughter who is 8, her room got really messy there during the winter. And when we went through and decluttered it and we cleaned it, now she is on top of it, keeping it clean because she sees how she can move freely through her room. There's not stuff crowding her space to play. And again, it could be personality, but I think when we show them like, hey, just do this experiment with me. Let's pull it out. It doesn't have to go away. We can put it down the basement. We can put it in the closet. Let's just see how it feels. And then depending on their age, maybe invite them into what they need to or what they want to long-term get rid of, or even not getting rid of it. I think something that has helped with some of the baby clothes for me is to give it to my sister and my niece, and seeing Charlotte's clothes on my niece has been really sweet because it's not just going somewhere unknown. I'm seeing it getting loved again. And again, it's that like exposure therapy of, okay, I can healthily detach from this, but it's still a part of my life. I know that's silly, but our emotions are real, and I don't want to discredit that.